Welcome back to the Deep Dig Sports Pod. Before we get into the show or do anything, we just want to send all our thoughts and prayers out to the fans that were at the Chiefs parade. Tragic news happening. There was shooters at the event, and people. You believe 22 people were injured?
22 gunshot wounds. One person passed away. And so, like, obviously, this is sports. There's nothing serious. And so, when shit like this happens, it sends ripples throughout the entire community. And so, first, I want to thank the fans that stepped up and put their lives and bodies on the line to stop these shooters. Anytime you see us, we owe you a beer. We appreciate you and what you prevented. And we want to send our thoughts and prayers out to the families of everyone who was affected.
Yeah, and the players. I have Albert Beer tweeting that players were calming panicked children. Blaine Gabbert, Trey Smith, Austin Rader, Chris Oladuakun, that they were all there helping children, making sure that they were okay. There was people jumping over fences. Andy Reid was consoling kids. So I mean, it's fucked up that people have to go through this, and you do have to be on alert for like big events like this. And so yeah, just be careful if you guys go to large events now. I mean, you just got to keep your head on a swivel.
Yeah, and it's fucked up that you have to have that mentality moving forward. But I mean, we've seen it over and over again. So I mean, just thoughts and prayers again out to the families of those who are affected, and again, a big thank you to those fans that did step up and stop these shooters.
Yeah, and the players and team handling it all with grace right now. So now I think let's try to get back into the swing of things because the Super Bowl happened.
Oh, do
A
you want to
lot of things
introduce
went down.
ourselves? We're the Deep
Yeah,
Dig.
welcome to the Deep Dig Sports Pod. I'm your host Drew. My other host right over there.
What's up? It's D. Good to see you again. From this point forward, we're going to be talking about a whole bunch. Super Bowl, 49ers aftermath. Steve Wilks was fired today. So there's a whole bunch of sports media to talk. But before we dig into that, be sure to hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe. We really appreciate it. You can listen to this on YouTube. You can listen to this on any audio platform. Please rate us 5 stars. It really helps.
Yeah, and I know people are talking to death about the overtime decision to start with the ball, Kyle Shanahan's legacy of not winning the big game, how Brock Purdy looked, Patrick Mahomes' legacy, but I think we need to start with the real issue here. The Super Bowl halftime show. Usher, baby. There's real controversy going around. Have you seen this controversy about the Alicia Keys of it all?
What?
If you guys can't hear that on audio, D is over there doing his best Usher impersonation.
Did you
Uh,
see? Hold on. Before we dig into the Alicia Keys, did you see that girl who lied on her resume and said that she
yes,
could roller skate and roller skated off the stage?
there seemed to be a couple injuries because there was
Yeah.
like they're like asking if the person that flew up off the pole and like went down, if that person's okay. There's a person that got tossed at one point and they don't know what happened to them. So let us know in the comments if you guys are those people and if you're okay. We hope you are. But hey, I ain't mad at it. Sometimes you gotta lie to get a job. I'm doing that. I'm in the process of that right now.
Yeah. And people saying Usher has zero respect for marriages.
Yeah, no, that's what I haven't seen Swizz Beats come out with anything kind of bashing Usher about it. But let's just put you in those in that footsteps, in those shoes.
Swiss
Say
Beats
you're
did come out and comment on already. He
okay, what
said
was the comment?
that people are not focusing on Alicia Keys' dress, that it was it filled up the football field. He was like, focus on that, focus on these amazing performances by amazing performers. I'm not bothered. So doesn't
And you,
affect him whatsoever.
okay, now let me put you cuz you're a married man. Your girl goes up there on stage with Usher. He hugs her from behind like that in front of millions and millions of people. How is your reaction? You're unbothered or are you bothered?
I'm a little bothered, but I mean, it's Usher. What am I gonna do? You know what I mean? So I'm hyped. Honestly, it was. What were your thoughts on the halftime show? I fucking loved it.
I thought it was good. I didn't think it was one of the best ever. Like I don't think it was like that amazing, but I wish Usher stayed on the songs a little bit longer. Like some of them you could tell he just did like 2 seconds of, and everyone was like, "Oh, I know that one," and then he was like on to the next. So I kind of wish he held on to some of those a little bit longer and maybe did less songs so we can listen actually. But yeah, no, I think it was an amazing performance. I thought he was good. The rollerblades was out there.
Yeah, I liked it. Again, I understand like everyone talks about that. Like, hey, it was really just a quick snippet of a song and you had to move forward. But look at Usher's catalog. Usher's catalog is banger after banger after banger after banger. He had to just get out as much as he could. So I understand. I actually really did like it. I enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was really good. I'm all for it. I would go see
Lil
Usher.
Jon,
I
Lil
would go
Jon
see
was out
Usher
there.
live.
Oh yeah, he's gonna do a crazy tour after this probably. I think the highlight for me was Ludacris coming out or Lil Jon.
Yeah.
Low light for me was the 0.2 seconds of Jermaine Dupri. Do you see the camera just focus on him for like 0.2 seconds and everyone's
Yeah.
like, CeeLo Green?
All right, not the best look. Not the best
Yeah.
look.
But yeah, I mean, I don't think you could be bothered by it. It's Usher. Like, he's gonna do that on stage. He's gonna grab your girl. He's gonna dance. I mean, this is known.
He's gonna grab on your girl. He's gonna be the sweatiest man alive. It's all good. Those are the two things when you expect from a Usher concert. Usher, baby, A-Town.
It's probably who was sweatier watching that, Usher or Swiss Beats?
Swiss Beats had me sweating, dude.
All right, now let's get to some sports. Where are we starting here? The Super Bowl recap. Kind of, it's getting talked to death. We've taken a couple days away because I was in New York watching the Super Bowl. I know you're back home, but I think we just let it breathe for a while. That the fact that the 49ers did lose, been taking it in. What are your main thoughts and takeaways now that you've had a little bit of time to let this sink in?
I needed it. I mean, I've been disappointed in my life, but I feel like this was one of the biggest disappointments. This was a game that we should have won. I think my biggest takeaway, or some of my big takeaways, are, man, what could have been if Dre Greenlaw doesn't pop his Achilles? Like, he was in for 3 plays and he made 2 tackles, and just his energy was just different. And you seen when he went down, I don't know if you've seen the NFL mic'd up version where Patrick Mahomes is like, did 57 go down? And then it shows Warner, and Warner's like, no. Like, you've seen it took a lot of wind out of the sails. And so, I mean, man, it's tough, dude, especially like a guy like that. You feel like he would have made a difference down the stretch.
I think it made a huge difference because Oren Burks is a good player. We talked about it before the Super Bowl. I like him, but he's not on Dre Greenlaw's like top 10 linebacker in the NFL right now.
Mm-hmm.
And Oren Burks got targeted. He got attacked. I think I don't remember this exact stat, but I think
9 for 9 with like 100 QBR and like so many yards. Yeah, it was bad.
He got exposed. And what's Dre Greenlaw's strength? Pass coverage. He's really good. He's really fast. I think he would have made a huge difference in this game. And it's not just him. Like, the 49ers went through a lot of adversity in this game with injuries. Debo coming out for a while. Kittle was out for a bit. Jair Brown gets hurt.
Eric Armstead playing with a torn meniscus.
Yeah, Hargrave's playing with an injury. Like, so much happened in this game that didn't go the 49ers way, but you still felt like, man, they're going to pull this out and they're going to do it. And then it just didn't happen at the end.
Yeah, man. I mean, when push comes to shove, you give Patrick Mahomes some breathing room and you allow him to like do his thing. He's going to do Patrick Mahomes things. And so realistically, that's what we've seen. The 49ers just didn't have that second gear, that oomph to get over it and to really step on the neck of the Chiefs when they had the chance in the second half. And so, I mean, it caught up to you. You have the muffed punt that's not really a muffed punt. You have a couple mistakes, missing that Brandon Ayuk on the third down. And then, of course, letting Chris Jones go unblocked on the last on that third down at the end of overtime. Those are just mistakes you can't have happen. But, I mean, those are the difference between winning the Super Bowl and losing the Super Bowl. And we see, like, Patrick Mahomes just gets it done.
Yeah, I mean, to me, just watching the game, I felt like these really were the two best teams in the league. I felt like we were watching the highest level of football in the world. Like it came down to overtime, and it wasn't like, oh, these are two teams, they're just not feeling it today. Like these coordinators were going at it, and I think that was the real matchup of the Super Bowl. It was the highest level coordinators going back and forth, and the 49ers just didn't make the right play calls in the right moments, and the Chiefs did.
Yeah, I mean, eventually, so Patrick Mahomes starts off the game, and he looked pretty dog shit. Like the Chiefs offense just couldn't get anything going. You felt pretty good about it. They do get the field goal to go into half, and they were getting the ball back. And you're like, what's going to happen? And then they stall out, and you're like, okay, cool. But then the 49ers just did not. That third quarter, I think, is what lost the game for them, realistically, because if you get out to a hotter start at halftime, you score a touchdown or a field goal, you get some momentum going, you keep your defense off the field. That's the difference. And you just couldn't do it. They just could not convert and keep drives alive.
Yeah, the whole game I'm watching, I'm like, just keep a 2-possession lead. Just keep it 2-score game. Kyle, please. Because if you give it to Patrick Mahomes with a 1-score game, bad things happen for you. And a lot of talks going around about Kyle Shanahan's play calling. He was being overly aggressive with the passing again. I think he ran the ball 3 times in the third quarter. And it's just ridiculous. Like, to start the season, we've said it all year. Like, he was pounding the ball with Christian McCaffrey relentlessly. And we were a little concerned, like, hey, maybe pull back and save that for the playoffs. But towards the end of the season, he was not doing that same thing. Like, are in the Super Bowl, there's nothing left after this. Why aren't we giving the ball to McCaffrey like 50 times? Like, just let him eat. He was getting 3 to 4 yards. And I thought we should have, in the second half, the strategy should have been McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell, McCaffrey. And I thought Elijah Mitchell ran really well in the snaps that he got. And he's a guy who's going to run hard for you, and he's going to gain 3 to 4 yards. So why aren't we just pounding the rock every time?
Yeah, exactly. Pound the rock, extend drives, make sure that realistically you keep your defense off the field, and more importantly, you keep Patrick Mahomes off the field. Those are the things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and as far as the defensive side of the ball goes, they held up for the most part, but there was so it was a little bit streaky. Yeah, they scored off the muff punt, the not muff punt. But after that, man, at the end of the game where it counted the most, I don't know if the defense was tired or if it was the schemes, the play calls, but it turned into Mahomes like we've all known him, just cutting up defenses and doing anything he wanted to do. And for the most part, those defensive ends, how they pointed out in the game too, they were staying disciplined until those last few drives where they're crashing. How many times have we seen these defensive ends crash in and let the quarterback leak out or let something happen on the flats? And that's just what killed us at the end of the day.
Yeah, man. I mean, just staying undisciplined. You're right. It was a game between coordinators, and Steve Spagnuolo got the best of Kyle Shanahan, and Andy Reid kicked the shit out of Steve Wilks at the end of it. And so, I mean, do you want to transition to the news today?
Yeah, so news came out today that Steve Wilks has been let go as defense coordinator of the 49ers. I mean, no surprise. Everyone knew it was going to happen the second that Kyle called a timeout and changed Steve Wilks' play call. And I think that's kind of been the story of Steve Wilks in San Francisco, that he's just not on the same page as Kyle. Like, they see things a little bit differently. When he has gotten beat in the past in those zero blitz situations, and when he called it in the Super Bowl, it was like, guy, the fucking Chiefs are rolling right now, and you're gonna give them all the fuel in the world right now to just throw an easy touchdown? Like, what are we doing here? Let's play for a field goal. And I felt like Steve Wilks was in that moment was like, nah, we can get to him, or fuck it, if we let up a touchdown, we let up a touchdown. And that's just not how Kyle wants to play it.
Yeah, I mean, these two have bumped heads the entire time. We talked about it, and we thought that, like, I mean, everyone thought that he was going to get let go during the bye week. That was not a, out of nowhere scenario. That was something that was very real. And I had said even before that, I think it was the Cardinals game when Josh Dobbs took the Cardinals 99 yards. I told you, like, I don't think this is going to work. And you were like, I mean, we got the win. Like, let's pump the brakes. But you could see it that it just wasn't meshing well on defense. And Kyle Shanahan said today in the press conference, ultimately, it came down to, the disconnect between what Steve Wilks wanted to do with our defensive backs and what we were doing with our line and linebackers. And it had come out that multiple players felt like they weren't prepared for a RPO situation against the Chiefs. Multiple players had come out even before in the season, like, oh, okay, it's so great that he's down here on the sideline rather than the booth because now we can actually interact with him. And I think it was just a disconnect. It wasn't the right fit. And ultimately, there are too many good defensive coaches out there, and you have to take your shot at a big guy. Vrabel, at Belichick, Pete Carroll, Rex Ryan has already thrown his hat in the ring, said that he wants to play for or wants to coach for Dallas. And I've seen Guy Haberman was like, why wouldn't he want to come to the 49ers? So there is a ton of good defensive coaches out there, and you need someone who's going to be able to fit in with what this 49ers team can do and get the most out of these guys, because we've seen like 2 weeks ago, Chase Young just out there lollygagging, doing dumb shit. And it like that was just the case the entire year, is just people not doing what they're supposed to do.
With Kyle Shanahan, his mistakes, and let's think about those for a while, or maybe for months, because it's going to haunt us until we get back to Super Bowl again. How did you think how did you feel about getting the ball first in overtime? That's kind of the big one.
I understand the thought rationale of, hey, our defense was dog tired. We just gave up a long drive to get us to overtime. Why would we put them back on the field immediately? Let's take the ball. But if you're going to take that approach, you need to score a touchdown, and you need to make that make or break. And on that, like, we know if they would have scored a touchdown, the Chiefs would have then scored a touchdown and went for two. So it's like ultimately it was a moot point. They were going to go for it no matter what. Hopefully you get a stop, but I think the right decision would have been you give them the ball, you see what you got to do, and then you move forward from there.
I think if you're taking the ball first, you have to score a touchdown for sure. I think you go for it on fourth down. I think you play third down, you get 2 downs. Third down, we're running. Fourth down, we're going for it. Because I'm going to give the ball to Patrick Mahomes and hope he gets to the 40-yard line? Like, yeah, of course he's going to tie it up. And then we have to drive down all the way again and try to score to beat that. Like, just doesn't make sense to me. I think if you're going to be aggressive and go with offense first, be aggressive. Just do it. And we saw that was to the detriment of Dan Campbell, but now we saw that the opposite was to the detriment of Kyle and this 49ers team. And who cares? If you score a touchdown, they drive down and score a touchdown, you have one play to win the fucking Super Bowl. I'm feeling good about this bend but don't break style we play on defense with our linebackers running around, Nick Bosa coming off the edge, Mooney Ward right there. I feel good about that one play that maybe we can get a stop there. Because imagine we scored a touchdown and then they hit that same touchdown they did to win it. Now you got to go again. You just use your best 2-point play on us. We know what to look for on this next one. What are you going to do? And your run game is not working on us. So, I mean, it would have changed the whole dynamic. I feel like it would have been like one of the best plays in Super Bowl history of like, it all comes down to this in overtime, a 2-point conversion to win it. That would have been amazing to see. And I think 49ers had a really good shot at winning that if that was the situation.
Yeah. And so you said it best. Like, if you're going to be aggressive all the way. Go for the touchdown. Don't settle for a field goal. Why? I don't think that decision didn't make any sense to me whatsoever.
And he was clearly being aggressive in the second half where he's throwing a million times. So
Yeah.
like if you're gonna be aggressive and try to air it out and try to, I guess, win Brock the MVP or prove that he can throw, then just be aggressive and go for it because it's the best quarterback in the league.
And ultimately, like, you weren't aggressive, but then you kind of were in that play call on the third down where you have a puller and then you have Spencer Burford in there who, let's face it, isn't that fucking good. Like, he's a guy who in his first year had to be subbed out multiple times, had to be switched off. That never fucking happens with offensive linemen. You never rotate offensive linemen. That's stupid. And then this year, he loses his job to a journeyman O lineman. So it's like, he wasn't fucking good to begin with. Why are we putting him in this position where he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing? Like, just play straight up. That was a little tangent. My bad. But yeah, like, if you're going to be aggressive all the way. You got to go for it on fourth.
Yeah.
So
We'll
do you
come back
think
to it again. Yeah.
this is just Kyle Shanahan in a nutshell? Hey, like, I think I'm the smartest fucking guy in the room. I think that, like, my offense works. It's perfect. And ultimately, I want my guy, which is a sort of game manager type of quarterback. And that's how I'm going to ultimately win. And you just never get over that hump. And he never wins this. And he loses in the biggest spot where you need offense. He just can't do it.
At the end of the day, him making some bad decisions, him maybe not making the right play calls, he went to overtime in the Super Bowl against the best quarterback in the league and Andy Reid. Like, he pushed them to the brink. And I think this is more like things didn't go their way. Obviously, they fumbled twice. Um, the way overtime worked out obviously was not great, but a lot a lot of injuries. Things didn't go their way, and you know what? They were there at the end of the day. They had a chance to win Super Bowl. They were on the brink of winning it, and I give that more credit after watching the game to the Chiefs of being this amazing team. And it's just like, man, you ran into a fucking legendary team, and maybe you'll win it eventually, Kyle. But right now, like, it's their time. Like, let's face it, they went through a gauntlet and won, and it didn't feel like they were supposed to win, but they won every time. They beat the Bills with Josh Allen. They beat the fucking Ravens with Lamar Jackson, double MVP. And then they beat the Niners, who everyone clearly felt was the favorite all season. And I think this could be more attributed to a legendary team beating the 49ers, who are a really great team, than Kyle coming up short this time.
I want to agree with you. I really do. Maybe it's just emotions, but like, how many times are you going to crap down your leg, dude? Like, how many times? Let's even take away the Falcons one, because ultimately there was a lot of things that played into that. But let's just talk about the 2 Super Bowls that you lost. And even then, let's add to it all of the fucking losing seasons that you have as a 49ers coach. Like, when ultimately are you going to take that next step? When are you going to finally get it done? And so it is like, I'm frustrated. I know a lot of other fans are frustrated. The coaches and the players are frustrated because they've already come out and felt like, well, we weren't prepared. We felt like our game plan just wasn't there. They did stuff that we didn't see coming. And so, like, that ultimately rolls up to Kyle Shanahan. And the one thing he doesn't give a shit about is special teams. And guess what? It came back to fucking bite you in the ass when Jake Moody misses an extra point and Daryl Luter can't get out of the way of a ball and Ray McCow can't field it. And so, like, all of that shit rolls up to Kyle Shanahan. That is ultimately his fault. And so it is frustrating when you have this guy who's supposed to be an offensive genius and he's not putting up the points and he can't back up what is a really good defense and make up for special teams mistakes that are ultimately his fault.
Yeah, but can you also acknowledge that as 49ers fans, we're pretty spoiled with really good teams every year in, year out, and competing in in the NFC Championship games, in the Super Bowl. Like, yes, he is getting us on the brink, and it's frustrating, but also like we're competitive every year and we have a chance every year. I mean, look at Andy Reid. I saw like Akash tweeted out the comparison between Andy Reid start of his career and Kyle Shanahan, like how many times he lost in the NFC Championship game and lost in the Super Bowl, and how many years it took him until he got Patrick Mahomes and won a championship. Like
Oh,
he's still
hold
really
on, hold
early
on.
in his career.
You mean Patrick Mahomes, the quarterback that Kyle Shanahan did not evaluate because he was looking forward to getting Kirk Cousins? That Patrick Mahomes?
Well, I mean, how many guys did Andy Reid pass on when he stuck with Donovan McNabb? You know, like
But we didn't
you
have
could
a
say that
Donovan McNabb. We had a Jimmy G.
every year you could say this about every 31 teams. Oh well, they didn't evaluate that guy good. They passed on that guy. Like it happens literally every year. There's 31 teams that pass on somebody who ends up being really good, and that year it just happened to be Patrick Mahomes. And you could say that about 31 teams that they didn't evaluate this guy properly. It happens literally every year. So like, are we really gonna keep hanging the Patrick Mahomes thing on Kyle? Like I think it's said and done with.
I mean, I'll do it when Shanahan wins a fucking Super Bowl, but he hasn't. Like ultimately, Sean McVay is better. You would take Sean McVay's career and the Los Angeles Rams than the 49ers because ultimately he won the chip.
I mean, yeah, you would, but it only takes Kyle getting that one, and then everything, like the rest is gravy. I think you win one Super Bowl, you're a legend, and he's already built up the foundation of being one of the best coaches because of how good he was at offense, how good his teams have been, and if he could just get the one Super Bowl win, he goes down as like a legendary coach, and then the rest is just the cherry on top. Like however many more he could win.
Yeah, but and again, if we're gonna put him up there as a top 5, top 3 coach in the league, then we're gonna hold him to that standard, and he needs to get it done. None of this like, oh well, but aren't you happy with the wins? Yeah, that's cool, but that's what we expect from Kyle Shanahan. Now it's time to get it done. And ultimately, like this roster was the best roster that we've had in a very long time. Many people were saying this is the best roster in the last like 20 years. So, yeah, it's a little frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, you guys let us know in the comments. Do you think Kyle is going to win Super Bowl? Are you frustrated? Because it seems like we are. The aftermath of this Super Bowl, though, this 49ers roster, a lot of people are saying, like, that's it. Like, how long can you keep it going? Because you have aging superstars. You have Brandon Ayuk coming up on a contract. I mean, I don't think they're going to re-sign Chase Young, but people are like, oh, Chase Young would cost some money to re-sign. Brock Purdy is only, getting closer and closer to an extension. It really felt like this was the year to capitalize because we were relatively healthy and everyone was in their prime. But how do you see this going forward? Like next year, do you see any major changes, or you think it's just, hey, let's stick to it and hope things will break our way next year?
You're going to need a linebacker because Dre Greenlaw is going to be out. I think realistically, that's like a 12-month recovery with the Achilles.
Not if you're Aaron Rodgers.
So that's going to be
Get him on the Aaron Rodgers plan.
That's going to be a long recovery time. You're going to need. Let's talk about that little fucking weasel, Jake Moody. Jake Moody should be off this fucking team, dude. Like, I get that he hit long kicks, but ultimately, every time he went out there, you held your breath. Like, I feel like they could use another kicker. I think even then, even if he does win a kicker battle, you bring in someone that's pretty high tier.
What's the Matt LaFleur quote? Every time he goes out to kick, I say a prayer.
Yeah.
No, yeah. Every time he went to kick, I was nervous. And I'll give it to Moody. He had a hell of a game. Other than the missed PAT. I thought he kicked it so low right when I saw him kick it. And, yeah, I thought that was avoidable. But other than that, he hit some amazing kicks. I mean, he held the Super Bowl record for all of 90 seconds. But you can't go into next year with him on your roster. You can't. He's missed so many kicks. And I think that was more like an outlier game than what we would regularly see from him.
And so
like
I think
him hitting all those kicks.
Just a fresh start like, hey, you know what? We'll take the L on this. Let's just move on. Let's go get Tyler Bass. But
yeah, you need to get I think another receiver in here. Juwan's probably gone. He earned a lot of money in that Super Bowl. I
yeah,
think he's about to get paid. I think you need corners. You need another corner. You need a safety or something. Is Funga going to come back healthy? Is he ready to go? Jair Brown, did you see what happened to him? Is he okay? It looked
I'm
like a
not sure
collarbone or
actually.
something. It looked like a shoulder collarbone
Yeah,
situation.
so we'll have to double check on that. But O-line, we're going to need some offensive linemen. I think that's what we're going to do with our first round pick. And then now you're looking and you're seeing Brandon Ayuk, his family has come out in Instagram post. His girlfriend has come out and said, hey, this might be the last time we stepped on the field at Levi's. So, and even Brandon Ayuk himself, when they were talking, he was like, they asked him if he wanted to be here. He was like, if it's the right move. And
Yeah,
ultimately,
he's
you know what
already
that means.
playing.
Yeah,
He's
you're
already
already
playing the
playing the
game.
game.
He's already playing.
So, would you be surprised if he moved on? Like they traded him because he does
I
have
wouldn't
one
be
more year
surprised.
left on his contract, unless they play hardball with him and they're like, "Hey, hard stance, you're going to be here no matter what for that 1 year." But I don't know.
Honestly, I would not be surprised if John Lynch and Kyle just get kind of tired of if he's playing this hard already and playing the game of trying to get a major huge contract. Like, let's just get him out of here then. Like, go get your money and be happy in Vegas and fucking win 7 games. Like, if you want to be here, we're gonna be competing for Super Bowls. Like, I don't see why he would be happy elsewhere. I think he's kind of in the perfect position. He's the number one receiver with no pressure of being the number one receiver.
Yeah, and I mean, have you seen a lot of the discourse online where fans are wanting to move on from Debo Samuel and blame him and his inability to get open as like hey, this is why we lost because this guy was supposed to be our number one receiver, but he can't get open.
I think it's a little lost on some fans because Debo is like a big name and he makes a lot of highlight plays, but don't get it wrong, Brandon Ayuk is the 49ers number one receiver. That's who runs the best routes, that's who gets the most yards. Like, he is a true receiver. And Debo is a great receiver, but he's a mix. He's a running back, he's a receiver, he's a slot guy. He does everything. And so it's not surprising that he's not getting open and hitting some of these things. But listen, they had a good game plan. His runs weren't working, which does really help get Debo going. And we didn't do a lot of stuff to like, hey, let's get him a jet sweep. Let's kind of like get something where we could just hand it to him, toss it to him. Like, there wasn't a lot of those. And when you ask him to be a receiver and just, hey, let's go win a go route, like, it's not going to work out. But I think he brings so much to this team because it's not just when he gets the ball in his hands, it's when he's a decoy. It's when the defense is keying up on him. Like, he changes so much and opens up so much for an Ayuk and a McCaffrey that you can't put in. It's almost like the Draymond effect, you know? Like, Draymond Green does so much more that I can't put in a stat box. That's Debo. But I think fans are getting a little confused because he's such a big name and such high profile. Brandon Ayuk's our number one wide receiver. Like, he's been that since for the beginning of the season on.
I think that the 49ers would move on from Debo Samuel over Kyle Shanahan's dead body. There's no fucking way that they're moving on. That's his favorite player. And realistically, he does a lot to set the tone for this offense. I think that there's no way in hell they're going to get rid of Debo Samuel. I see it more likely that they would move on from Brandon Ayuk.
And also, why would Debo want to leave? Like, if he goes to any other team, there's no way that they use him correctly. Like, they're just going to be like, oh, well, run the ball. Like, you run the ball, right? Run the ball. And it's like, no, Kyle, his blocking schemes, the way Kittle and Juszczyk open up things for Debo, like, it's a certain way. There's like an art to it. And I feel like Debo would just go get wasted somewhere and he would be frustrated. So, like, he's already got his money. Like, he's happy where he's at. Like, there
No, it was
there
just
would
more
be no reason.
discourse online of like fans being pissed off at him.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, if we traded him, there's no way he would be happy about that. Like,
Yeah,
I think the
I think it's
49ers,
bullshit.
yeah,
I think there's no way. I think that's just
49ers would
what
be
the case
upset.
is.
Debo would be upset. Like, there's no way.
Yeah. And so, like, I think the 49ers should take a page out of like everyone else's book. And when you're upset, stay off the internet. So I know that there was some tweets from John Feliciano about the whole overtime third down play. Do you have those, or do you want to talk about that?
Well, yeah. So Jalen Carter
Well, this
posted
is
that John.
after Feliciano got into an exchange about with a fan about Colton McKivitz, where he was defending Colton McKivitz and saying, "No, if that wasn't Colton's guy, if the guy who was supposed to block him blocked him, it would have been fine." And Spencer Burford came out and was like, "Damn, dog, you really threw me under the bus. What the fuck?" And Feliciano came out and said, "Hey, that's my bad. I was hungover. I was being a bitch. Sorry." And then Jalen Carter came out and
So
said this.
so then Jalen Carter comes out and is like, well, okay, let's pile on John Feliciano and say that during the Eagles 49ers game, John Feliciano was bringing up and trash talking the fact that one of Carter's teammates died in a car accident. So then John Feliciano came back and put some clarity on the situation after people were kind of trying to shit on him for this. And this is his tweet. Carter told me he was going to murder me and my kids would never see me again because I was laughing at him after getting the flag. I said, I believed you. You got a body. Referencing the teammate that died when Carter was in the car with him. Then he continued for weeks posting my fam and reaching out to my friends. So a little bit more context saying that Carter was kind of threatening him. And all that we could find, people of Twitter could find, was one post from Jalen Carter, a picture of Feliciano and his two kids saying, at John Feliciano, I'm your biggest fan. I'll get up with you. And I see a lot of people saying, like, oh, that's not a threat. They're kind of really siding with Jalen Carter on this. So where do you stand?
Feliciano was talking shit. I'm sure that he did bring up something to do with the car crash and the incident. I think that Jalen Carter also talks shit. And so, like, again, it's two different like sides. I'm sure it was one extreme and the other extreme, and the truth is somewhere in the middle as far as who's at fault and whatever. And I think like ultimately that stuff does need to stay on the field. Like if you're going to talk shit and do whatever, keep it on the field, play between the lines, and then once you go home, wash your hands of it. But there's some lines you don't cross. And so, I mean, ultimately, like this isn't, this is a full contact sport. You have the opportunity to like really beat the shit out of each other if you wanted. And so like just get it done there. Take care of your business and then go home and be a millionaire. What the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, this isn't power. Like, they're not gonna go murder each other in real life. Like, I the one thing I do want to like clarify. This, like, I know they're not gonna do anything, but the post from Carter saying, I'm your biggest fan, I'll get up with you, and a picture of Feliciano and the two kids. I saw a lot of people defending this saying it's not a threat. They're like, I'll get up with you. That's not a threat. Like, this is a threat, right? Like, this is meant as like,
It's a sneak diss threat. Yeah.
it's a sneak threat. Like, people were saying, oh, it's not a threat. He's saying, I'm your big fan. Like, and I'm like, okay, if these guys just went through like heated exchanges and like lives were threatened and like things were brought up, you should know like a little context clues. Like if he's posting this guy and saying that, that's like a backhanded like, oh, like I see, I'm gonna get you, you know?
Yeah.